Let's see. I didn't even get to check to see. Let's see. I need to make sure that Mike is set. Hello, test, test. All right, that looks good. They can hear you now as well too.
Oh
So,
boy.
yeah. Whew. Scuffed. Super scuffed. But
I mean, that's all right.
we are ready to go.
All
And
right, sounds good. Let me start my local recording.
hopefully everything on the stream looks and sounds good. Uh, I can
If
adjust a
not,
few things
blame
as we
Spyder.
go. Yeah. Well, the fact that I did a full
Yeah,
rebuild and reinstall in what for an hour
basically, yeah.
basically, because I gave up troubleshooting it around like 9:30. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, happy
Yep.
birthday.
Yeah. Great way. It's like you're supposed to blow out the candles, not completely blow out the PC. But
I know, right?
to each their own. That's Blizzard just there's some fuckery going on, as per usual. But anyways, let's do a show. Now they got the local recording going.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Ramsey shows up. Who knows? It's
Yep. Now that I got everything set
yeah.
up, he'll show up.
I mean, you had a reasonable excuse.
Well, I didn't have a working computer up until about 15 minutes ago, so
Exactly.
I was no lie while Windows was installing before we officially started. So while Windows was installing, I was setting OBS and stuff up on
Mm,
my laptop, just as a
right.
worst case scenario.
Yeah. Well, in case of glass emergency. But anyways, what's up, nerds, and welcome back to Heroes and Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. Tonight we are celebrating two themes. One, this is episode 250 of Heroes Never Die, and two, as Spider had mentioned, it's his birthday. So happy birthday,
Woo!
Spider! What I know this is exactly how you wanted to spend your birthday.
Yeah.
Just being a nerd, talking about surprise collaborations with Overwatch 2, talking about all the little Timmies being upset at the fact that like Blizzard basically made it look like there's premium currency in the battle pass, even though it's the regular coins, and then them using the wrong color. So it's not showing as like the white, instead it was showing as a yellow for premium, and then everyone's upset about it. It's just it's been an interesting week, and last week we were talking about how season 3 for Overwatch 2 is basically going to be they're just gonna try some shit.
Yep.
And we have a general understanding of some of the things that they're going to be implementing, which we'll get into. But I have to say, like, overall, in regards to the season 3 trailer that dropped on Monday, I sat there, I was highly entertained, and then I was just absolutely flabbergasted in the best way possible, because there are some things coming that I thought were either not on the roadmap or were so far down the roadmap that I had no idea that it was within reach at this point in time. Yet here we are to talk about it here tonight on episode 250, and it's just like it just feels like the right time. They're like, okay, Blizzard's like, okay, people, all right. They got a big episode coming. They had a lot of stuff to talk about last week. This is like a huge milestone episode. We're just gonna lay it all out on the table. And I you know, we were very optimistic after last week, or in higher
Yeah,
spirits, for sure, as
for
opposed
sure.
to 248. And now it's just like, man, like it really is starting to feel like we are starting to turn that new leaf. And we'll see where we go from here. But there's awesome stuff on the horizon, both for the Overwatch League, which we'll get into, as well as Overwatch 2.
Yeah, I mean it was great. I had hoped to play some more season 3 tonight, that obviously didn't happen,
Hmm.
because about approximately 3 minutes after I set up um, the stream, like the stream on YouTube, the pre podcast stream. I had everything set up. I had all the settings done, and the computer was basically like, "Oh, hey, you got to update this." So I updated it, and then it's like, "All right, do you want to restart?" And I restarted, and it just died. So, um, yeah, that was my night. But as far as Overwatch goes, like everything they're putting out, it looks amazing. I mean, we'll dig into the nitty gritty of it. But I mean, it wasn't just on like the game front. We also had like
Hmm.
Overwatch League drop basically a 7 minute video that flipped everything upside down. So we have to talk about that too. So I don't
Hmm.
know. It you put the show notes up earlier, and I definitely snarkily said, "Oh, how'd you figure out something to talk about this week?" Like,
I completely just like I know he's fucking trolling me, so I
yeah,
just didn't respond.
yeah, no, like it's a it's better to have more news to talk about than less. So I
Hmm.
don't know. Let's jump into it.
Absolutely. So, on the esports front, we'll start with the lighter news in regards to the fact that the Los Angeles Valiants are returning to the West Division of the Overwatch League, so they're no longer grouped with the APAC teams. And like I thought it was pretty funny, and like, what I think it might have been. Was it Kasha who made the comment about like, is this something new, like in regards to like the divisions? No, it's just like the conference play. East being
Yeah,
APAC, West being all the NA teams. And we still have a pretty, I mean, we have an even split at this point, basically. Uh, and when I saw this news, I'm just like, huh. I didn't really think much of it at the time, but then, like on the other hand, the snarky comments started to seep in the back of my mind, like, oh, this is their attempt to give the Vegas Eternal and potentially like New York Excelsior, a couple of wins. Also, speaking of Excelsior, just really quick, rumor mill, looks like Fitz is going to the Excelsior, which is another thing that has been brewing for a little bit. Still don't know what direction that team is taking. Obviously, we talked about the marginalized roster that they were potentially looking at doing. I don't know if that's still going to be the case. But some of these teams might have some other things to worry about. But I just remember like the Gladiators being like, oh, we could have another battle for LA, and I'm just thinking like, be that much of a battle. It's like it's not like the battle for Texas, which has really just become a
hey,
major
that
staple of the
started off as
Overwatch
a
League,
shit
and
show
that's
too.
been very competitive in recent years, at least.
Yeah, I mean the like I said, the Battle of Texas didn't start off that way.
Hmm.
It was um, pretty rough to begin with, but it got there. Whereas the Battle for LA was kind of the opposite. It started out, pretty decently, and got worse over time. So, LA being back in LA is a good thing because we were all making fun of like what are the LA Valiant gonna rebrand as like or
Hmm.
so but as of right now they don't have a roster. So what are they gonna pick up a contenders team, which is probably most likely. um they just gonna hold open tryouts. We don't really know, but it is good for them to be back. I think them coming back will help their brand a little bit because people are pretty low on the not the Titans, but they're also pretty low on the Titans. But the Valiant. So it's good. I'm glad they're back. And with what the rest of the news, because they made that announcement first, and I was like, oh
Hmm.
crap. Well, that doesn't leave very many teams. And
Right.
it kind of it removes the odd one out, but uh, B, it already lessens a small pool of teams. So now knowing what we know, I'm not as worried. So it's good news. Now just come on, give me a roster announcement or something.
I mean, we're basically saying the same thing about some of the APAC teams still. So they're
It's
not
true.
they're not just the only ones that have been withholding some information. Now that being said, obviously, like the big elephant in the room is the format changes coming to the Overwatch League for its what this is season 6 at this point. I think we're going on. You know, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Uh, but I have to say, like I saw this and I had a stop. I'm like, holy shit, like they are taking some cues from the Challengers League for Call of Duty, and having like a more direct link between tier 2, the path to pro, or I mean even before that, like open division
Hmm.
into the path to pro, into the Overwatch League. And I think for me, one of the key things here is knowing that from an esports perspective, Sean Miller's basically like overseeing everything, and he's like, we really want you to feel like you have something to tune into. And when you look at the season calendar that they have for 2023, you're looking at basically like a 9-month cycle, just about, of competitive Overwatch, which is definitely a bigger uh intake than what we have been getting in years past. Now there's a lot of stuff kind of like baked into this, but they basically said like, hey, we got a pro-am, we have contenders teams that are going to be competing in the East, which is very exciting. Uh there is the opportunity for like a contender team to actually win these tournaments. On top of that, which is also very interesting, they're kind of like going away with the All-Star event and kind of like doing some kind of like standalone fun things in some of the off weeks, which is a little bit different from what we had been doing. But we're looking at the Overwatch League season to start on April 27th. Now I know Plat Chat did like an emergency episode recording. We got a couple of snippets from there that you would link to me earlier. Just because like
Hmm.
I was trying to catch up on like the regular Plat Chat, and then you link me that. I'm like, wait a minute, there's another episode, and then of course I refreshed the feed. And I'm like, oh shit, there is another one. So then I switched it over.
A much more important one.
Yes, a much more important one for today in general.
Right.
But basically, here's the gist of it. We got 2 stages. We have spring and summer. We have 2 global LAN events. So we got the midseason madness as well as the grand finals. And then, obviously we have the West and East regions, which, is basically the same outside of the East, featuring a more, open ecosystem, allowing contenders teams to compete. And, what's interesting is, we have these pro-am events, which are going to be like a 3-week cycle, which start on March 23rd. So we got bracket play or circuit play for both regions started in April. All in all, league points are gone. Thank God. That was like, from a formatting perspective, that was one of the most nauseating things. Saying like, oh well, like Dallas Field is in like first place with like 97 points, but the Gladiators are like 8-2, like you know, this stretch, but they're at 81, so they have no chance at actually getting top seed. It's just like, ugh,
Yeah.
thank God it's done with.
Yeah,
But
it's nice that they're learning from their past mistakes. I mean,
right.
the and like John Spector specifically brought up that example on Plat Chat. He was like, teams at the end kind of coasted. It didn't matter. They had such an
Mhm.
insurmountable lead that it didn't really make a huge difference, and they wanted to, keep the level of competition up. So league points being gone is great.
Absolutely. And, it's going to be very interesting in regards to this ecosystem and there being a more natural progression for
Hmm.
some of these contenders teams, especially on the east side. And, I know a lot of people were making a comment of like, well, what about like NA in Europe? But like the Western region as a whole with the Overwatch League, obviously there's like 14 teams at this point in time. Um, and I know there was like that ongoing meme, which is still happening to this day in regards to like, rating teams lower than like Maryville Esports or the Redbirds, who, were cleaning up open division and contenders here recently.
Hmm.
which is a local college in this case for me. Uh, but like when you think of like Contenders Korea, you're like, oh man, like obviously we're used to a certain level of play. Like we have seen the recent rookie classes like really coming into the Overwatch League and just absolutely crushing. We had
Dominating.
the age lowered to 17 for like the competitive play in the Overwatch League, and we were curious about how that was going to work. But all in all, you look at some of these Contenders Korea teams, and you're like, these teams are absolutely just obliterating the competition. And you're like, well, how would they fare
Right.
against the Overwatch League teams? And when you're specifically looking at a team like O2 Blast, which of course is the Shock sister team, and just wondering, all right, how much of the cage can they rattle in the East? And we have the potential to see that play out in the 2023 season, and I am absolutely thrilled about it.
Yeah, can you imagine a grand finals that is the San Francisco Shock versus O2 Blast? Like, well, I'd hate to beat us. We might lose, but we're going to win either way, kind of thing. So, no, like strictly speaking to the scheduling and the formatting, excuse me, uh, I think it looks really good on paper. We're gonna have to see how it plays out because there's gonna be a lot of wheels spinning this year,
Mm-hmm.
not only with this but with World Cup. So the pro am in the West is cool. Uh, they didn't go into a lot of detail on that, like how many Overwatch League teams are going to compete. What is the prize pool? What, what are the rules? Like they just said, "Ooh, okay, I think I'm alive." But yeah, they haven't said anything about the rules or anything like that yet. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But in terms of like the open division in the East, and then like the qualifiers going into knockouts, going into the tournament, I think that's a really cool setup. And going back to the no league points, you just win mid season madness, and you're like, cool, I got a fat check to cash. But we
Mm-hmm.
got to keep playing if we want to win the grand finals, which is the big money. So I think overall, I think it's going to keep people more engaged. Um, the only thing that's throwing me off is it's kind of hard to call it a season at this point because there is no overall season rating. Like it's basically you have a spring tournament and you have a summer slash fall tournament,
Mm-hmm.
which I think maybe given a little more time there, the branding could have probably been a little bit better. Um, because I think they're too married on like this is season 6, and I'm like, well, not really. It's season 6 tournament 1 and season 6 tournament 2. So there's a little bit of logistics they have to work out with branding, which we've
Mm-hmm.
noticed that they've struggled with branding on Overwatch recently. Like is it a PvE game? Is it a PvP game? Is it Overwatch 2? Is it Overwatch 1.5? So it seems like their marketing department kind of needs to step it up, and I guess that's finally translated to Overwatch League. Um, but the actual like tournament structure is great. Like I love like the round robins. I love the group stages. Um, knockouts. Only 6 teams being on land is going to be much more exciting. Uh, all in all, like I don't have anything negative to say other than the branding, which is such a minor issue at this point. Um, Speaking to the East specifically, they haven't said how many contenders teams are going to be in, or basically how many like play-in teams are going to be in, because they don't
Right.
necessarily have to be contenders teams. Like the Golden Road is now shorter than ever because you could theoretically go from Open Division to Overwatch League Grand Finals champion in one season now if you play in the East. So that's really cool. Like I love this. I love that they took that structure from like Call of Duty. Valorant does the same thing. Like you can play in and win. But on the other side, this kind of makes me look at that, litigation that the teams brought against Blizzard in a little bit of a different light now, because you don't have to buy into the Overwatch League anymore. You can just play in the Overwatch League if you're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, this theoretically could be an open door for teams that have left Overwatch, like Fnatic, FaZe, to make their way back into Overwatch if they wanted to. So, uh, that it'd be kind of funny to see like London play Cloud9. Like that would be really interesting.
Mhm.
So, I'm curious to see how this plays out. Like this is going to be a fun season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting turn of events, and they did mention too, like in regards to like the play-ins for the East in particular, like they were kind of like breaking it down into Korea, the Pacific, and like one other region. Oh, is Australia, New Zealand was the other
News,
one.
yeah.
So you're gonna have a couple of teams qualifying from each region, going into like that next step for like the knockouts, which should be pretty interesting. I don't know how
Hmm.
much I expect outside of obviously like Korea is gonna be the heavy favorites regardless of what teams qualify in that sense.
Obviously.
Um, but who knows? Maybe there might be a surprise. Maybe like a Japan team will make a run for it. But time is going to tell. But really, just like this was something like I was just like, well, holy crap! Like this is absolutely
Was a
bonkers,
bomb.
and I am all here for it.
Hmm. And a couple of things we haven't talked about yet is they structured the season around the seasonal cadence of the game.
Hmm.
So we should see closer cadence to patches, heroes, and um, you know stuff like that, which is great. Like obviously, there's still going to be some disconnect because they're going to start putting out these little hot fix patches and stuff, which they're probably not going to do for Overwatch League unless it's like super game breaking. Um, so that's a good consolidation. They also like you see a lot of buys in this period. Oh, we might have a Ramses.
Yeah,
I've ruined everything.
Ramses appears. Say he didn't lie completely. He did
After a
say
month,
I will definitely be
after a
here.
month, I work until 8, friends, and then I have to drive 40 minutes back to my house. Hello, I missed all of you. I hope you're doing well.
I'm
I mean,
so
we're great
glad
now,
I
Ramses.
prepped
We
that
we we
stream.
got we got the full party together. We're here to celebrate episode 250. We're here to celebrate, Spyder's birthday. So I'm glad
Yay!
I'm glad you could show up for the
Yay! Happy
occasion in this
birthday,
case.
Spider.
And
Well, thank you.
what a night to be back, Ramses. We were talking about the new format structure for the Overwatch League entering season 6,
Mhm.
having the more natural ecosystem in the East, and the possibility of maybe seeing like O2 Blast actually facing the Shock in the grand finals. Like, what a turn of events that would be.
You've seen that meme going around where it's like the NYXL promising not to get embarrassed this year, and then it's Australian contenders teams like rubbing their hands together. Like, I I think we're hyping it up a lot. I think realistically, maybe 2 teams get like beat by contenders teams, um, which it would be at New York and then whatever. As far as the West, East, I don't know, but I think only 2 Western teams get beat by contenders teams, and that's probably New York and whatever version LA happens to be. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be interesting. Just every time, just when I thought that I was out, just when I thought I was over it, they pull me back in with some more BS that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, and it kind of explains, just going back to the grand finals, the heavy presence of tier 2 Overwatch.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh yeah, you guys remember like being at grand finals? Totem and I were there, and there was like jerseys for teams that I haven't seen in like years. Like every single collegiate person there was wearing their jersey, which like you haven't like yeah, go for it. Every collegiate person was wearing their jersey. Every contenders player, not every, but like a lot of contenders players were wearing their jerseys.
Mhm.
They were really, really emphasizing. I still have my contenders and
Oh, very
my
nice.
contenders and collegiate pins. I keep planning to put them on something. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens with it. I'm really interested in it, and I think the biggest like good thing from this is the more of those teams we get to see, I think we'll see a lot more of that talent make an immediate jump to other
Mhm.
teams. Is my
Hmm.
hope. if some guy comes out and stomps a bunch of the lower teams from contenders, like then they might find a spot on on a roster in the weeks afterwards.
Absolutely, and I'm really curious to see from an Overwatch League perspective too. Like, are teams going to go back to running academy teams more so than what we have seen here in recent seasons? Because a lot of them did abandon that model altogether.
Except for
in this
Boston.
case.
Except for Boston, credit where credit is due. I like, and I'm dominating a lot of stuff. I'll stop talking in a second, but
Stuff
we
to
saw
catch up on.
well, we saw a lot of teams do like we saw a good chunk of teams do kind of going like not halfway, but kind of doing the calling all heroes route, having a bunch of those players come out, which I think is a good way to meet in the middle for it. I don't know. We've talked about this for years. That like academy teams aren't profitable. Heck, Overwatch League teams might not even be profitable. And at a time when esports is really on a down money time, I don't know how many teams are going to spend the money for it. If there's a way to have a free academy team, if you could put together a free academy team, then maybe.
That's called an open division team that you silently support from the sidelines and then just pick the players off after they beat your team's ass.
Speaking of which, our open division team that we're forming right now, we're open to be signed by any Overwatch League teams who want to sign 3 random dudes.
Is that your team name? Because that would be great if there were 5 people and the team name is just 3 random dudes.
3 random dudes. Well, no, and if it was 2 like female or non-binary players, that'd be even better. So it would just be 3 random dudes and then 2 other people as well. I don't know. It'll be like I'm excited to get the full layout like immediately, just because it's there's been so many years where it's like the week before and we're like, when are we finding out? When are we gonna hear literally anything? So yeah. Also, no more league points. Congratulations to everybody who bitched about that for years and years and years. You got your moment. Congratulations. I hope you feel good about yourself.
We both enjoyed that change, so we do.
Congratulations. Like it's just one of those things where it was like I understand, but it just felt like there are so many other things we could complain about first, and then it's just Gator being like, league points are bad. They make me angry. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that's not a league point specific problem. That's a Gator being mad that he thought he was better than he was kind of problem.
3 years in a row? No way.
Yeah, exactly. No, I did say, like, my counterpoint to that was it does kind of take away from like the season aspect of the thing. Like I said, now it's just 2 individual tournaments. But other than that, like, I'm glad league points are gone, because it's kind of like that 4th map, even though the team has already won 3 maps. Like, every map matters. Oh, no, it doesn't. Like, it didn't matter to the Dallas Fuel in season 1. It didn't matter to the Shanghai Dragons in season 1. That was just an extra map for them to get destroyed on. So I'm glad league points are gone. Like, if they're going to double down on this tournament structure, then league points really didn't need to matter anyway. Just up the money. That's enough incentive.
Yeah, and again, this basically just reinforces the fact, and this is a point, we had made last week, when it comes to, monetization, direction of the game, direction, or just the format of just the esports ecosystem, just as a whole, nothing is set in stone. So I'm glad that as we've progressed, we're seeing different iterations, and, I would imagine we'll probably still see something similar to this going into the 2024 season, maybe a little bit more refined, but obviously, like, this is something that's brand new for them. It's something that they want to do, something they've talked about for a little while, as they were talking about on Plat Chat. And just from an esports perspective, as a viewer, it's like it's more intake for us. It's more content to consume, more content to produce. And we'll see how things play out, but I'm really curious to see, like, on these off weeks, the sort of like fun interactions they're gonna have in regards to doing like these one-off events. And we'll see whether or not we'll have any home stands. That was like another thing that was just kind of like, well, it's on the team, so we'll have to see if anything's gonna be happening on that front as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were super. I think this season when we like started giving ideas of homestands, I think we were really excited for like what that could be, and then it only happened for kind of like the big name teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just reminded of like in season 3. Do you remember this? Like, because I feel like we have to spread out where we do these homestands. We can't do
Yep.
repeats. No repeats, and like realistically, you have to do like your 4 biggest teams maybe. Just because, like, the one that comes to mind for me is, do you remember the second Washington Justice homestand?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We're like that first one. They were like, "Here's all these cool things we're doing. Here's like Stratus and Corey hanging out. Here's
Yeah.
all the activations." We're like, "Great." And then like the next week, like, "And we're back." And it's kind of the same, but like it's if they're really going to make any dip into live events again, like they really have to lean into like each one being like a individual experience for you to come and watch.
I think, yeah,
Like,
I would agree with that. I think they just can't be back to back. Like, I
Mhm.
think that was the problem with the Justice is, like making that trip 2 weeks in a row into DC is a pain in the ass in itself. But the first week, I can tell you like it was very lively in the arena, and then the second week, it was less lively, and I was only there for one day on the second week. Because that's like right around when COVID started to get really bad, and I had to have a conversation with my wife, like, "Hey, we got a baby. Like, I probably shouldn't be going to these things." And we were kind of like, "Okay, I'll go one day," and that was it. But you could just tell like the general excitement had faded in the arena, much less with the production. And I remember talking to some of the broadcast like crew in like the media area, and they were like, "Dude, we are so tired. Like, we had to do like setup and takedown over the week because they had shows here all week, and then we had to basically reset up everything." So you could just tell like the whole energy was a lot different. So I think homestands are still great. I think if you want to like do multiple activations of an individual area, you got to spread that out. Like, it's got to be like one for the spring stage and one for the summer stage, and that could be it. And I think you're right. I think you hit like key areas. So not like the Midwest, because there's no teams in the Midwest, but like the Southwest and then like the East and the West, and you'll be fine. So maybe Toronto. Like, I guess you could count
That is the
Toronto.
Toronto.
Midwest team.
Well,
It's Toronto.
Toronto's also put in enough money and like has put in enough where like I don't want to say they deserve it, but like I think that's a market that would have
I could see that
get
as
from it.
an activatable market for sure. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. And they did say like they have the schedule pretty much set up for the spring stage, but they don't have any schedule made for the summer stage yet, because, and I think it was Matt that said this specifically, like, we're going to look at strength of schedule, and we're going to move teams around so that certain teams can't get into the grand finals by playing the Vancouver Titans twice, because there are going to be certain teams that have to play teams 2 times in a row, or not in the row, but just multiple times. So I think that's a really good idea. Like, basically you're like, okay, well, we're going to spread it out, and you're not going to get that instance where, well, the Gladiators had a really good stage this time, but they played all of the lower tier teams, so how
Mhm.
good are they really? So them at least being aware of that being a thing is a good sign to me.
Yeah. I I'm interested to see how it goes. I mean, something we were talking about the repeat parts of it. You compare so I was going to the Blizzard Arena in LA season 1 and season 2. And it went from I think just because after the repeat of it, season 1 was different, I think because you just had it was a brand new thing, and like it was something so much more accessible than a lot of other places that would do stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like I know Riot also does like in person, like you can go and see their competitions, but I don't know how often they do that. Um but like you could look at the arena, like when I was there that first year, like you could like I couldn't get tickets on some days. Like it was
Hmm.
sold out if you didn't book it out ahead of time. And you would go season 2, like I'd be there on a Saturday and it's like 2/3 full,
Yeah.
half full. Like if you can't, you know what? Totem and I know in in wrestling, there's a term called killing the town, which is where if you keep running the same places over and over and over again, eventually it's not a special event for people to go see your thing because you're always there. So they
Yep.
just go, look, I don't have to go to this one. I'll be at the next one.
And
So
yet I still go every time they're in Chicago.
yeah, AEW runs Chicago 6 times a year. They run LA once every like
Well,
16 months. But whatever. They never run San Diego, but whatever. Whatever. I'm still interested. I didn't get a chance to look at this part 100% as far as the pro-am that's happening.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about that a little, how there's not a lot of details. They just mentioned that it's going to be a few Overwatch League teams and then like various other teams.
Yeah, like we don't know what the split is. They did say like I think it was like five, like 4 groups of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 groups of 5 for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll see what the split is actually going to be in regards to that. But yeah.
Well, and again, if you're one of those teams, like if you get, I guess there's 2 ways about it. If you're one of those teams who, like contenders teams who like trounces a couple of them, awesome, you're probably getting picked up. If you're a team who gets beat by a bunch of contenders players, I'm sure you're mad that you spent this many millions of dollars to buy in, and then a bunch of dudes playing on 150 ping are coming in and.
I guess my point to that is at least the league teams aren't in a position where they can get relegated.
Yeah. And this is like the thing teams have needed, like the Titans, like the Valiant team. Basically, you're in this league, so you have to put the effort into this league because sure there is some financial problems that are indicative to Overwatch esports, but esports in general, maybe don't buy a team for $20 million. Like maybe don't trust a snake oil salesman, but you've bought into it at this point, and your financial returns are directly related to the rest of the teams in the league. So if you're going to put the bare minimum in and then complain that you're not getting money back, if a contenders team comes in and beats you and makes you look terrible, dude, that's on you at that point. Like, you need to at least put the effort in because all of those contenders players were available. Why didn't you sign them? Like, it's none of these teams have no scouting. Like, you can argue certain teams have very bad scouting, but none of these teams are unaware of the players that are available. So, like, that's on them at that point. And I'm all for it because I think it'll just bring the general play up across the league because you don't want to be that team. You don't want to be season 1 Shanghai Dragons. You don't want to be the team where, a team with a hot dog in a, Sonic costume for a mascot beats you. You don't want to be that.
And I think part of the bummer they talk like that has been acknowledged was like if this were something that was happening like 2 years ago, like Ellen Mystic would come in here and like compete with a lot of these APAC teams. Like American Tornado would come in and compete with a decent chunk of these Western teams. So it's kind of a bummer of like can you imagine Fusion University playing against like a bunch of these teams back in the day, like if this happened like season 1, season 2?
You imagine Fusion University dumpstering Fusion? Like that would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Now, I can't even wear the band jersey. There's no Fusion Uni.
Hey, people are kinder to Zachary now that he's. But it feels almost too little, too late. We'll see whether that's the case. Just because it's a super cool thing. Would have been way cooler 2019, 2020.
Oh, I agree.
But we'll take what we can get.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to just freshen things up.
I think the last thing is, at least for Overwatch League, is there's no All-Stars anymore. All-Stars is just gone. But they did mention that there will be a few fun tournaments here and there where they're just going to, it's not going to be Overwatch League teams, but there will be Overwatch League team players. And I think the specific example is you want to see Seagull play with Prophet, that would be really hilarious, So I think that's a good idea to just have some like fun things here and there to, take the place of All Stars. But the only thing I thought was missing is they didn't say anything where they're broadcasting. So
Yep.
they were mum the word on that one.
Well, I mean, it's so like my eyes are still set on them returning to Twitch. With the
Yeah.
I
YouTube
mean,
deal up.
This
No,
wasn't
but
a
no,
live
but
stream.
the
though, so-
discoverability will finally be there, Totem. The discoverability they've had for years will finally be there.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see if they do an actual like live stream where they live stream it, because this was just like a premiere of a video they recorded. So of course it's going to go on YouTube. So
Well-
I'm curious to see where they end up.
COD League went back to YouTube, didn't they?
But yeah, they're on both now. So you're right. Yeah.
Oh, they're simulcasting. Okay, I did not know that.
hmm
Interesting. Man, maybe Facebook gaming, maybe.
Mixer,
Eh,
or what
What's
is it?
Doctor Disrespect's platform that never came out?
No, there's
Treymax's platform that's not real.
yeah. What's that? What's the platform of the guy who got banned from Twitch for gambling? So he started his own platform.
It's just
That's just
it's
gambling.
literally Twitch.
feed.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited for this season. I'm curious to see. I did think it was kind of funny. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna start earlier this year," and I'm like, "By what? Like 2 weeks?
30.
Like 3? Yeah. Like okay. Like
Mhm.
I think we were all kind of expecting like a February start date, the way you guys were hyping it up earlier, but and we kind of pinned that on like the China thing. Maybe that pushed it back, like the NetEase deal.
No, they
Um,
they did say like that.
Right.
That was something that they mentioned on Pledge. Like the schedule didn't really shift.
So I'm like, so did you always plan it for March, and then you just were like, oh, we're gonna start earlier? 2 weeks isn't that much earlier.
And can I share something stupid with you guys that I just found out today?
You do all the time, Ramsey. So
I know.
what's one more time?
So
I was today years old when.
So there's a very fun account on Twitter that I have to follow called Crazy Ass Moments in Overwatch League History.
Okay.
And they posted a clip from a Dante stream. I don't know when this was. They posted a clip from a Dante stream
Those are
where that
dangerous.
apparently in season 3, Jexay got paid $60,000 to play in every single match for the
Mhm.
Houston Outlaws. Do you know how much Boink got paid to ride the bench the entire year?
I mean, I know only because I also saw this on Twitter.
Wait, how
Spyder,
much?
do you know how much?
No.
150 grand to Boink. To Boink.
No wonder they had to sell the team.
And in that moment, I was like, they were right about Flame.
Yeah.
They were right about Flame this entire time. If Boink is getting 150, oh man.
Mhm.
I mean, at least pay Raucus that. He could pay. He can model on your Instagram or something.
Oh man. Well, like, if Boink's getting 150 grand, I'm like, maybe I know Overwatch League fails. Maybe I know why this league is having a hard time. If Boink was getting 150 grand.
No, that just doubles down on this like seasonal reset that they did over the past year, where they basically cut everybody, and I think this is a good reset of the salaries to more realistic, bounds, which actually is kind of funny when you consider that Overwatch 2 individual performance has way more effect on the game than Overwatch 1. So players could theoretically earn more, like proper. So, but yeah, no, that's nuts.
Man, it makes you wonder if Boink was making 150K, what was Raucus making? What was iRemix making? Like all these dudes who played
What
like
was
one or
Jake
two
making?
seasons. Oh, Jake had to have made like 200 grand. Like, I don't care. And again, I'm happy Boink got paid. Good for him. But it's just like, what was
Fact
there?
of the matter.
The fact that the Boink got paid 150. Like, if Jake got paid 150 grand, like, okay, all right. Carper got paid 150 grand, like, understandable. Okay, like, Boink!
Yeah, 'cause
Boink!
our assumption was always like, he who shall not be named was earning 150K,
Yeah!
and like that was the top. And
That
there
was
was
the
only
bag.
a couple of select players that
What
were
Dante may be
making the cap.
lying.
No,
Dante
no,
may
no,
be
no.
capping this whole time.
Siegel has talked about it on stream too. He hasn't never given names or specific numbers, but he's like, there were players that were making a lot of money in that league, like way more than they ever should have been. He was like, I think he did mention like Sinatra was the one that got the press, but he was like, that was like the tip of the iceberg. And he was like, and that's even when he left in, 2018. So I can only imagine the next couple years it like ballooned out of control.
I need to know, because like Fissure made the bag. We know this. I need to know what iRemix was making.
How much did
I
Mickey
need
make?
to know how much did Mickey make? How much did Doc make?
Yeah.
How much did Doc make? How did
What?
Who's
He
the name
only
of the-
lasted the first season, so
what's the name of the guy who played Hitscan for San Francisco who played one game, used to be a big streamer?
IDDQD.
How much did IDDQD make?
What
Like
do you mean used
how
to
much
be?
did
I
Baby
still
Day
watch
make?
him.
You know what? Give me the list. Oh, publicize the salaries, Overwatch League. Back to this again. Publicize the salary.
You need to put some respect on IDDQD's name. He's got the highest kill death ratio in the Overwatch League history.
Oh, IDDQD.
of
Oh no,
Infinite.
he's great. No issue on his part. He's doing great. I just need like, man, I need to know like, and we never will. But it's,
Yeah, Ramsey just sees the clip and it's like, oh no, they opened a
This
can
is-
of worms.
Oh, no.
this is me building up because
no.
I haven't been on in a month. I haven't been here for a month, so I'm just like, every 10 minutes, Tom's gonna be making a point, and I'm gonna yell, and another thing.
All right, let's get to the Overwatch 2
Not full
news.
time.
It's getting late here.
So one of the other things that kind of like slipped through the cracks here in regards to like upcoming things that are happening. They confirmed that map pools are going to be a thing of the past, starting in season 4. So season 3, which is the one that had just started this past week, is the last time we're going to have map pools. Which I think we're all kind of like glad about
Yay.
in some ways, because it's just like, again, and they've reiterated this, like, there's not enough maps in the game to be like, yeah, we're just not gonna have like these 8, and there's also the other side of it. Numbani was put back into the game for like a couple
3
of
hot
hours,
minutes.
if that, and then it went back down again. They mentioned some bug. They didn't specifically say what bug, but I just thought it was funny. They made all that effort to clean it up after all of these years, only for the Numbani airport to close yet again at this point in time. Just like, man, like, I don't know if it's a somber bug or what their deal was. We're still having some bug issues with like Diva being able to like fly her mech out, but then get transported back into like, the starting area on some locations as well. But all in all, I think this is a very welcome change. A lot of people seem to be happy about this because there are so many cases, and I know all of us have experienced this multiple times at this point, where you get into these map pools and then it feels like you're only playing 2 maps ever.
One push specifically, it's like you're playing
Coliseum.
Dorado and then push, and then you're playing another map and then push, and then you're paying like it did definitely feel like playing. Like when you would play that, you're playing push every other or at least every 2.
Yeah.
And they said that even it's because there's much like they put it in that part of how the system was supposed to work was that they were trying to avoid people playing the same map in the same game mode over a short period of time. So the idea being like that it was trying to cycle through, but there's only a couple of push maps, and if it's going to cycle between game modes, like I've played. I mean, you've heard tons of people say this, but like I've played more New Queen Street than I played of any, or not New Queen Street. I played Toronto map. I played more games of the Toronto map than like any map since
No, that's New
Overwatch 2.
Queen Street.
Every
You're
other
lucky.
map.
I'd rather play that. I get stuck on Coliseum like every other map, and I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of this map. Like, okay, cool. The enemy team went Hanzo Widowmaker. I guess I'll quit and try again because I don't feel like dealing with that. So, oh my gosh. No, I'm glad map pools are going to be gone because, I mean, the specific reason they mentioned there's just not enough maps in the game, and he did mention that they could bring them back in the future when there are a lot more maps, and the fact that they're bringing out maps every other season, um, and a new game mode eventually, because they did say there's new maps for a new game mode that is coming this year. I think will help. Like I think even adding another game mode will be enough to you know redistribute the flow of maps. So rip Numbani, but we'll see again eventually. So
Yeah, maybe.
maybe
It might open again for another 30 minutes before it gets taken down.
I miss that map though because that's my favorite Torb map. Like I can play
Yeah.
Torbjorn on that map and I basically win about 65% of my games.
Yep, and of course we did have the new patch that dropped on Tuesday, which of course was the start of season 3. We already mentioned it a little bit. We saw the trailer drop on Monday for it. Got us all excited. Of course, we'll talk about the roadmap and kind of like all of the interesting things that are coming along with season 3. But we did have some balance updates. And guys, I don't know if you've been on Reddit at all this past week, or
Wouldn't
just the
recommend it.
forums in general, and the amount of mercy threads in particular,
Oh,
I would say are probably 100 to 1 in regards to mercy to literally any other post
mm-hmm.
in there.
When you mess with the mommy character, everybody comes out of the woodwork, Totem.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they keep saying like Mercy is one of the most popular characters in the game, or the most popular. So then there's always that conversation of being a little more leery about making changes to her. But then, there's people who are fixated on Guardian Angel in particular. Understandably so. As a Mercy player, I absolutely agree that, being able to perma fly essentially, since the super jump is just, baseline at this point. It's not some secret tech anymore with
Mm-hmm.
the cooldown being a 1.5 seconds and just being able to fly around, back and forth, constantly hitting shift, staying in the air, doing the super jump was absolutely ridiculous. But some interesting design changes overall. So I figured like we might as well start with Mercy because that's been
That's fine.
the most commotion by far. So in regards to Mercy with Guardian Angel, they increased the cooldown from 1.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds. And then holding the backwards directional input and canceling the ability with jump now moves 20% slower. Now, outside of that, looking at her staff, they reduce the healing per second from 55 to 45. And then healing is increased by 50% for allies under half health. They removed her regeneration passive and then gave her a new one where she heals herself for 25% of the healing done with the staff. So
Yep.
initially, you look at that and you think, okay, in Velk, how the hell are you supposed to kill Mercy?
Yeah, if she's healing people in Valk while they're low health, there are clips of her like tanking a full bob, tanking a visor. Like she is somewhat easier to kill in Valk while also being much harder to kill in Valk. It's really interesting. Like the changes to her healing, I think are good. It promotes like a more interesting play style in terms of healing. I don't know if the numbers are right. Like I've tried her a little bit and I'm not a Mercy player, so I can't really gauge it. But it something just feels off with it. So I think they need to fiddle with the numbers. As far as like the Guardian Angel changes, as somebody who doesn't play Mercy, I am happy for these, and I know probably get a lot of shit for that because I can actually kill her now when she's like zipping around. But I can understand why people are upset about it just because that was kind of like her identity. anybody who played Mercy, and especially if you're really good at Mercy, you knew her movement was broken. Like
Hmm.
there were so many tricks and stuff. Like she is harder to kill than like a wrecking ball that knows how to play well. Um, which we'll talk about that as well. So I think this is a good direction they're heading. I just don't know if like the actual like numbers are right. So if you're a Mercy main, I'm sorry, like your character's going through more growing pains. This is just the downswing before we hit our next moth meta. Like that's it. That's how these
Yeah.
things go. So
Yeah, and I think from a Mercy player perspective, it's a bigger blow just knowing that they kind of just double dipped on the nerf to Guardian Angel in
mhm.
particular. Like, if it was just one or the other, I don't think there would have been as much of an uproar. But just knowing how accessible the super jump is compared to what it had been, in seasons past or in Overwatch 1, um, just made it so much easier to pick up and play. And you didn't have to be like a fantastic Mercy player to really get the value out of Super Jump, or to have like that NAT capability. As we keep alluding to in this case, but it's been an interesting change. I just haven't had enough time to really check it out. But I definitely will be since I bought that Beat Mercy skin.
Mhm.
Half of the E-Dater skins. Half of them. Yeah. I don't know. You've seen the Twitter discourse be like, yo, Mercy got nerfed into the ground. And some people
Mhm.
be like, no, this is actually a buff. And then some people be like, if you don't think this is a buff, you're crazy. And then vice versa. Well, like, they're not done.
Mm-mm.
As
Not at
they're
all.
not done. I'm sure whether it's in a couple weeks or in a couple months, there will be a change. Um, It's part of what happens when you make a game where every character is designed to be overpowered in some way. So
Yep.
we'll see. I don't know. It is still hilarious to me 6 years later that people freak out this hard over Mercy stuff every single time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens when they change your waifu.
Um,
Which is going to
so-
be even more so here in just a little bit, but we'll
well,
get into that later.
so if we're talking about mommy characters, if people get mad that the mommy character got buffed, if we could talk about the daddy character getting like buffed hella, I'm super stoked because I can finally play Ryan again without being an absolute throw.
Yeah, Ryan's pretty good now. Like
Oh man.
he moved up a couple of tiers real quick. So
Hmm.
but as a whole, I think tanks in general are all pretty good. There are obviously some options that are better than others in more circumstances, but I played a lot of tank Tuesday night after the patch, and I played a lot of Ramatra. I played a lot of Junker Queen. I played a lot of Reinhardt, and like there was no point where I felt what I was playing against um, was like such an advantage that I had to switch. Um,
Hmm.
so and I ended up playing against all the tanks. Like the only time I had a problem specifically was when I was playing Junker Queen against a ball. Like I just struggled to be able to control the ball that well. My ball handling skills were lacking with Junker Queen, you could say. But other than that, like that's probably just a shortcoming on my part. Like just because I haven't gotten a chance to play a lot of Junker Queen because she hasn't been very good.
Well,
So
there also haven't really been a ton of ball players either
right.
recently. On
So
top of that.
um, and that was my plan tonight. Was to play Overwatch and to try ball and to try tank a little more. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I think all the tanks have their niche. Like I'd say out of all of them, the two that feel the weakest are Doomfist and Roadhog, and they still can fulfill a role. Like Roadhog is still good at repositioning people. Doomfist is still like a threat if you're really good with Doomfist. So I think the tank role as a whole is great, but speaking specifically to like the Reinhardt changes, the charge cooldown is noticeable. Like I noticed it when I
Mhm.
was playing Ryan. Like I could charge in and then charge out a lot quicker. It just be in
It's
1 second.
yeah. It's a lot more like the Winston jump where you can use it like you can use multiple times for fight now.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't get to do like the Baptiste combo with the Fire Strike, but I did snipe a couple of Faras out of the air. So you know that like that's changeable. So I guess I'll do the Reinhardt changes real quick. His charge was reduced from 8 to 7 seconds. His Fire Strike was increased from 90 to 100 damage, and then his Earth Shatter was kind of moved around a little bit. The direct damage was taken down from 250 to 170, but the knockdown duration was increased by a quarter of a second from 2.5 to 2.75. But he like everybody else pretty much got his ultimate cost increased. So I don't really put that in like the general, like basically everybody's ultimate costs got changed one way or another. So I think Ryan's really good right now. I think he's still going to struggle on certain maps. Luckily, one of the maps he would have struggled on would have been like Numbani first point, so that's not an issue anymore. But beyond that, I think Ryan's in a really, really good spot. Now, Ramses, you play a lot of Reinhardt. So how does the Rocket Hammer change feel to you? Because they reduced the knockback on it. I didn't really notice it because it was like real fringe cases that I would ever like knock somebody out. And if I did knock somebody out, usually they were doing it on purpose. Like Reinhardt versus Reinhardt matchup, one of the key things you can do is you can jump when you get hit by the hammer to back yourself away so you can create space, whereas that's not really the case anymore. But outside of that, like I didn't really notice it.
It definitely like it makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to chase somebody down. You're not constantly batting them out of your range. There were a couple times like we were just trying to clear the payload where like it did feel like cool. I don't have to do a full mouse spin just to continue hitting this guy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up because a lot of times you have that extra follow through every time to make sure like you're getting full distance around you.
It's a little bit easier to keep somebody in that like, and I personally, and maybe I'm just thinking I'm overthinking this, but it feels a little bit easier to like actually purposely juggle somebody with it rather than just like hit. Okay, I have to think really hard where like I have a general range of where they're going to be and I can compensate way easier. I will say the one that got me is like we talk about the charge. Fire Strike kills way more people now. It's way more fun. I appreciate. I don't know. I feel like I did notice the Earth Shatter like stun duration because definitely does not do the same amount of damage. But it does feel like you have just that little bit more to get the actual full kill in or to get a full spin in. Because like that 0.25 seconds, that's enough for a Suzu to come out or for like specific Kiriko's have been the bane of my existence for the past couple days. Like that's enough for Suzu to come out or for them to teleport. Like it's enough time for them to get out. So it helps just that bit. It does, I think, make it so it's more of a team play ultimate though. Like because there was a time like when this was 250, you would just run up, kill 3 people, keep going, keep swinging through. So
Flats talked about it because the direct damage was actually his idea initially. Like he put it in like that fun experimental card, like that weird card. He put it in as like 400 damage, but then they lowered it back down.
Hell yeah!
That's when they took the timer from 3 seconds to 2.5. Even he was like, dude, just take the damage away, like put it back to 50 damage and just give us the 3 seconds back at this point. Like I feel like stop trying to play this middle ground, like let it be a team control ultimate. Like, you know, it obviously like Diva's mech, it's fun to smoosh people, but you know, let it be like a control ultimate. So I could see them moving more into that direction as time goes on.
Absolutely. So outside of that, I do know they lowered Winston's projector barrier by 50. So now it's went from 700 to 650. But Ball was really the other tank that got quite a bit of changes in here. We got the multicolor health sources, which is pretty cool to look at in game. Also kind of terrifying going up against Ball in this case. So looking at this, the base health in roll Q was reduced from 600 to 450, and then they gave Ball 150 shield, which he didn't have prior at all. Pile driver cooldown was reduced from 10 to 8 seconds. They increase the alt cost for his minefield, but it also activates in arms quicker by half a second. So
And
instead of
that's
1.5 seconds,
noticeable.
it's now 1 second. It is very noticeable. So if you get caught with a pile drive when that is going out, you are just
Did
absolutely
Did you see the
effed.
clip? It was Siegel. I think it was yesterday. They were in Havana and they were in the brewery and they were in like a small room and a ball just literally rolls in, like doesn't even use like the speed roll, just casually rolls in, hits his ultimate, and by time the voice line finishes, four people are dead and the ball just casually rolls away because like as soon as they popped out, they armed. Like none of the players could move. So that it is. I feel like that one's gonna change. Like out of all of his changes, I feel like they're gonna pop that thing back up to like 1.25 or something because there are just so many instances where it's like, cool, there's I'm dead. Like so I feel like that's the only thing in these changes that could get reverted. Like I don't have enough feeling on like the shield health yet. I've noticed good ball players are still annoying, but they were annoying before. Like because basically the people that are good at ball didn't die beforehand, so now it's just a little easier on them. The only thing I haven't seen is people said that with ball Sombra would come back, and I don't think she's come back quite yet, just because of the hacking. The health packs got changed too. So I don't know if that's just like our skill rating thing. Like nobody wants to play Sombra at the pleb level, but
Because she's the throw pick.
right. So I don't know. Like I'm curious to see how this meta shakes out. And of course, you've already had the Doom sayers on Twitter like this is the worst meta already, and like other like pro players are like, what meta? Like nobody knows what the fuck they're playing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like I think the ball changes are fine, other than that ultimate change.
I see people call it that, like, yeah, you pretty much self heal, like you almost full heal if you just hit your power drivers correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. Well,
They can have their
yes,
moment.
man. I know, like, it feels interesting, and I guess I don't know. I thought I was expecting to see something different. Um, I have. It feels like now, like you were saying, Spider. The tanks are a lot more. It feels they feel in a better spot where you do decent damage, where you just feel overall tankier, and people are starting to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a game against an Orisa that I could not kill yesterday because, like, if you can just cycle that rotation of like fortify and then spin, and if you're getting any heals at all, like it feels like with that, like with Ramacha, I had like to sit down, burst this dude down for like 15 seconds to be able to kill them. Tanks feel a lot stronger, which is nice.
Yeah.
I'm not excited for when it gets removed because Blizzard, but
Mhm.
we'll see.
I think that that's just an overall case of most DPS feel a little weaker now, because there were a lot more DPS nerfs than there were buffs. Even if you go back a few weeks, like there have been very few positive changes. Like there have been a few horizontal changes, and Soldier I could argue is a buff based on after playing him. He is much more consistent with his damage, but it's not a huge buff. Like it's not like the damage buff he's had in the past. Like we're not going to see Merit 76 back on the field, but he may make an appearance occasionally. But like Junkrat got nerfed. Sojourn's been nerfed repeatedly. I think the only character that actually got buffed was Cassidy because he got his range fall off, picked up a little bit. But even then, that doesn't affect most combat situations with him. Um, other than that, we're seeing a little more ultimates out of uh, the DPS just because a lot of DPS had their alt cost reduced, but their like neutral game hasn't changed that much. So I do feel like tanks are pretty strong. I do, like my big gripe right now is healing tanks is too strong. Like I almost feel like Blizzard needs to put like a passive in for tanks. Like tanks take less healing. Um, but there'd be like more repercussions that, and there'd be a lot more thought process that have to go behind that, because like you said, Orisa is unkillable. Even Roadhog right now is still very hard to kill if he's doing what he's supposed to. He's just not one-shotting people while he's impossible to kill. Ramatra is actually really hard to kill if
Yeah.
you know how to play him right. Like he is definitely hard to kill. And even Reinhardt has his moments where he is still Mr. Square Shield guy. Um, you're just not playing him that way walking through a choke. You're playing that as like a defensive cooldown at that point. Like you're treating the shield almost like a defensive cooldown. So I do agree that tanks feel tankier. But Overwatch 2, I think as a whole has kind of swerved away from, tank battles. Like it's basically tank v tank, and let's see what the DPS can do to get around the tank to kill the other DPS or to kill the support. Because if you're playing a game where it's just two teams just trying to kill each other's tank, that game is A, hella boring, but B, is not kind of the way the game's meant to be played at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I would agree. Like I think the tank changes are good. I think the DPS changes are good too. Like I said, there weren't a whole lot of them. Like we've already kind of tertiarily talked about them. Like Sombra got a small buff, Cassidy got a small buff. Sojourn's been nerfed every patch, but she wasn't mentioned in this one. Torbjorn's turret got a nerf, so the best player on any team that I play on has been nerfed. Widowmaker got a nerf, so she's back down to low health. So I definitely see that. So I don't know. Like I liked the overall tone of this patch. I think there's still more that they could have did, because I don't think it changed the season identity that much. Like they were already on the way out. Other than we're not seeing Mercy anymore.
There is some other season stuff that's a little bit that should be, I guess, noted. So the adjustment for skill tiers and divisions is now after every 5 wins or 15 losses and ties.
Right.
Which, as I've had to have told to me over and over, doesn't actually change much. It just changes when you see the number rather than the boost of when.
But you can also see your progress.
You can see now, yeah.
So
you don't have to just keep a mental log as far as like when. The workshop editor is back, so we actually can change some stuff around. I know, because I keep trying to add, like, for the what's it called, for like the aim trainer I use, it doesn't have any of the new characters available, right. So I have to go through and like fix that like now every time.
Or you can be like Samito and rage so hard you're rebuilding 6v6 in Overwatch.
What a man. Oh, there were some jokes this week because we finally have a streamer mode in game, which is nice.
Yep.
But it's lacking. It's severely lacking.
It would be like the way it leads to some problems, because it takes the first letter of your tag and the last letter of your tag and it asterisks out everything in the middle.
Yeah.
The issue is that sometimes
that creates worse.
There are some worse things that could come out of that.
The other problem is it's client side only. So other people can still see that information if they get into a game with you. So it doesn't affect how you appear to other people in the game. It just affects how the game looks to you through streamer mode. And basically that it does nothing.
So what's the point, Spyder?
Right. Exactly. Like, and as soon as we saw that, like I watched like Flats react to it, I watched Emong react to it, I watched Seagull react to it, and they were all basically like, okay, well, what's the point then? Like, everybody still can, like, and they brought up a good point. They were like, look, stream snipers are a pain in the ass, right? But he's like, having somebody intentionally stream snipe you is insanely rare. He's like, it happens, but it's insanely rare. This was Siegel or Flats, I forget, one of the two, but they both kind of said the same thing. He said the problem is if you get into a game and then somebody recognizes you, like, oh, you're Siegel, and then they pull up your stream and then stream snipe you. What is that? How does that help at that point? So, um, as excited as I was for streamer mode, it's basically worthless.
Yeah, it's definitely a whimper in this case. The other like major change, at least balance wise, that I wanted to bring up was the brig changes that we got.
Oh yeah.
So Briggs Repair Pack saw a couple of changes. So the healing over time was reduced from 55 to 50 per second, but they also made it where it applies an instant heal for 25 health on impact, as well as lowering the alt cost for rally by 10%. And I have to say, like, for a while with Overwatch 2, I was struggling with Brig primarily in trying to figure out like what is a play style for her meant to be, because before, like, you could play very aggressive, then we got the shield nerfs and things like that, and then you couldn't really do that because the shield breaks so quickly. And then there were so many times when like you would throw a repair pack out and then you'd be waiting for the hot to like start ticking, and then someone just get obliterated like right out of the gate, and you're like, well, I threw a pack at you and then you just got insta-gimped. Now
Yeah.
feels so much better.
It does. Yeah, I played a couple games on Brig, and it is highly noticeable, like that instant heal. And I didn't notice the lower healing, after the fact, because they got that instant heal. So after that point, I'm like, you're probably all right now. Like, you'll be fine. I'm gonna go over here and hold M1 some more. So, and rally was noticeable to me. Like, usually these like 8 to 10% changes I don't notice too much, but on her it was highly noticeable. And I don't know if it's the fact that just with the repair pack, you're getting the boosts a lot quicker to the the alt charge or what, but like I had rally like every other fight, and I will say I also had coalescence every other fight when I was playing Moira. So I feel like that change was like, if anything, Moira needed her ultimate increased, not decreased, because that was already a fast charging ultimate. But yeah, the Brig changes are great. Like I like playing Brig. Now in Overwatch 2, I feel like she is like borderline on that like really fun and effective character. It's just the meta has never been great for her in Overwatch 2, but you could get into certain games and have a lot of fun with her without her feeling like you're cheating. So I'm curious to see what they do with the rework, but as of right now, like with Ball coming back in, Brig is a good deterrent against Ball, because you can shield your other support, you can whip him to stop him from rolling. So I'm curious to see if we don't see a lot more Brig as time goes on.
Absolutely. Now, outside of that, obviously, with the season 3 trailer, there were a couple of themes that they kind of put in here to make it very clear. Like, hey, like they were showing off the new skins, and they did it where they showed what would be in the battle pass for the skins. Then the next screen was what would be purchasable, on the shop. So good to have that distinction right out of the gate during the trailer. But we also got the teases of some of the things that are happening throughout the course of season 3. And not to say, like, as a whole, like a lot of these were a little out of left field, but in a good way, in the sense that like they've talked about doing collaborations in the past. And really the only other one that we got to see was like when they added like the Lego Bastion, because I'm not going to count like the Blizzard World launch skins that they did.
I was going to say, like, and even then, was it technically Lego Bastion, or was it just
Brick Bastion?
Because like the Brick Bastion, because like the profile pictures, which are the ones I'm so mad I never got. Like, the profile pictures are definitely minifigures, but the Brick Bastion, there's no Lego on the stud. So I mean,
But yeah, but it's definitely a loose one, but it's something that they've been talking about doing for a really long time. And obviously, you look at games like Fortnite, who are basically just partnering with just about anyone. But it's a sign that Blizzard is starting to loosen the reins a little bit and be more open to it, rather than them just being like straight up like, no, our stuff is fine the way it is. Like, we
Yep.
don't need you to like sully our name or anything like that. But we'll get to that in a minute. So first off, we got the Valentine's Day stuff. So there's two parts of this. One of them was just like, wait, what? So we have Lover Watch, which is a
Woof.
dating sim, which comes out on February 13th. And this runs through the Valentine's event, which technically starts on Valentine's Day and runs through the 28th. So what is Lover Watch? Well, basically, it is a non-canon text-based dating sim, which is going to be outside of the game. It's going to be hosted on a website, and you're basically trying to date either Mercy or Genji. And I remember laughing so
Oh.
hard at this because like even on Hand with Scare, we were talking about God. I'm trying to remember the name of the game. We were talking about the pigeon dating sim
Oh,
for
Hatful
whatever
Boyfriend.
reason.
How to
Yeah.
boyfriend, yeah.
Hatful Boyfriend.
Or
Yeah.
you think about that, or like Dream Daddy, and like how popular that was at the time. And I was like,
Well, considering that
everyone,
Dream Daddy
everyone
used a
has-
bunch of Overwatch characters as their character templates too.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no matter how long of a life cycle Overwatch has, it's always going to have the stigma of the fact that the port is more popular than the game. And there's always going to be shipping happening in the Overwatch universe. It's just a thing that happens. And I saw this and I just started laughing so hard because I'm like, of course they're gonna add this in. And it's something that like they're looking at different ways to engage with the community, or just trying different things to see like whether or not they can bring in more people to check out the game. And obviously like Mercy being not necessarily the poster girl, but like one of the more popular heroes in the game, and they're already kind of being the ship between Genji and Mercy already because of the I need healing spam. It just made perfect sense for this to be like the center stone characters of this, and of course it ties into the Cupid Hanzo, which was like the big reveal skin for the Valentine's Day event. Finally, after all of this time, the nipple has been freed. Everyone can stop complaining at this point in time. But my entire Twitter feed after the trailer drop was just latching onto the Hanzo kiss.
The highlight intro. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The whole thing is great. I hope, I don't think this will happen, but I hope they throw in like such a curveball, like a Doki Doki Literature Club, for any of the degenerates who know what that is. Like one of those type of twists, at the end, like that would be really fun. But I'm pretty much taking this as like a surface level visual novel dating sim game where, you're going to do various activities with them. And then at the end, they're going to be like, oh, I love you, or no, like, oh, you're terrible. Breaking all the weebs' hearts. But it's cool to see them do different things. Like this along with, probably one of the next things we're going to talk about, is a sign that there is life coming into the Overwatch team after all of, the nastiness that Blizzard has had to deal with, over the, Blizzard specifically has made themselves deal with. I don't want to undercut like, this was not their fault. But it's good to see like new stuff happening and new stuff that's different. So, like one of the big things we kind of touted on was, or we like harped on was, all the events feel the same. Well, they don't feel the same anymore. So that's great news.
Yeah, I have friends working on I have friends who are working on Amaranth, which is a Valorant dating sim, and they've been working on that for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And when the thing for Loverwatch came up, they all were like, "We did it first, but okay, fine." You know what? I mean, this is the kind of content we've been asking for, and it's not necessarily what I thought we were gonna get, but okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so basically, like before, we record our next episode, you could probably expect us to stream it. It's a
Yeah.
30-minute playthrough from what they were saying in the blog
Oh, is that
post.
but if you got to get all the secret endings though, Totem.
Well, yeah, you gotta play both iterations of it, so but
Oh man. You know what? Good.
Yeah, assuming my
Right.
computer doesn't die next week, I'll stream it before our show so we can see how things go.
Have either of you guys gotten to play the new map yet?
I have seen the new map. I have not gotten
I've
to
not
actually
played
play
it yet.
But I explored the 3 points. So
There's a new map. It has penguins on it.
Yep, that's the most important
and
thing about the map.
a
You can't kill
fishing
them.
mini game where you just shoot into the hole and it spits fish at you. They really got to work on their marketing expectations.
I mean, story of our lives, Spyder.
But you know what they are marketing? One Punch Man.
well, hold on, really quick. Just in regards to like the other Valentine's scene with the
That was-
Hanzo part of the event, they didn't really go into details about the new mode that is specific for it, but it is like a 4v4 Hanzo team deathmatch by the sounds of it. But yes, One Punch Man, obviously the other big thing, like a full-blown collaboration, and they did specify like, hey, like this is not the only skin. You're gonna have multiple skins with this event. And this is happening March 7th through April 6th. Now, Spyder, I remember, browsing Twitter within the past week, seeing your weeb checklist.
You had to
Seeing,
put me out there like that, didn't you?
And I was like, okay, I'm just curious. How many of these have I actually seen? Because I really don't watch anime, like, at all.
Right.
And out of this, I can't remember how
Surprising, I
many
know.
there were on there. I think I had only seen like 11. So like when I saw this, obviously this is not gonna have the same effect on me as it is everyone else, because I'm not really a huge anime fan. Obviously, I'm aware of One Punch Man, and obviously you would automatically make the connection between One Punch Man
And
a
Doomfist.
character who actually punches in Doomfist. That makes total sense. But I basically saw this and I was like, wait, what? Because like we knew they wanted to do collaborations, but it felt like such a closed door. So we're like, okay, well maybe we'll see it eventually, and then all of a sudden, bam, here it is, season 3, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? So it's a welcome time in, and it's just showing like maybe some of the things that they've been wanting to do are happening a lot sooner than what we were expecting. Very similar to like the the changes that we are seeing with the Overwatch League format. So it feels like at this point, I don't want to say like nothing is off the table, but it seems like maybe some of these ideas have been more fast track compared to what we have been used to seeing in years past.
Yeah, I'm hyped for it because as soon as they were like, well, this is like we saw the Doomfist skin and we're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then I'm like, well, who could the other characters be, right? Like,
Bro.
is Genji gonna be Genos? Like, or are they gonna like gender bend it and make it Sojourn? The what is it? Tatsumaki could be Kiriko. It could be Tracer. It could be, you know. I feel like Speed of what is it? Speedo Sonic. It's been a while since I watched One Punch Man. The ninja dude who gets punched in the nuts. I feel like that's like a Tracer character to me. Like because their whole thing is speed. Fubuki could be any of the mommy characters. Like honestly, so the only other skin that I want in this whole thing is like a Soldier 76 like Moomin Rider skin, which if you don't watch the anime you don't understand any of the words that I just said, but if you have seen the anime you know exactly what I just said. So there could be a lot of really fun skins, and this might be the thing that breaks me. So
Blizzard, Blizzard, if you can hear this, I will pay $100 for a Jotaro Kujo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Ramatra skin.
Oh my
I will
god.
pay $100 for this. Right in I will drive up to the headquarters and give you cash. I will give Bobby Kotick $100 for for a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Ramatra skin. Where like when he goes into Nemesis form and the Star Platinum arms come, you start punching people to death.
Yep.
I would please, please. If I've asked you for a lot and you've barely delivered. This is the one thing you can do for me. I'm really happy with it. It also looks like it's decent quality too. Like it doesn't like. I feel like I compare it to something like if you Totem. I don't know if you've seen the Rainbow Six Siege WWE skins that came out earlier this year.
I have, yeah.
Where like and I don't play that game as much, but like I do follow wrestling, and they have like there's two of them. There's an Undertaker skin for one of them, which like. Okay, you picked the one guy with long hair and a beard, and you just gave him an Undertaker outfit. And it was a Becky Lynch one where you're like, you picked a woman and gave her red hair and like the outfit. It doesn't like it feels more high quality than that. It feels like they actually went through and like, how can we put these things together so it's not just like a cheap reskin over it. It looks good. If Overwatch has ever had one consistent strength, it's been the level of craftsmanship on like their top tier stuff, and I'm sure they're going to make a ton of money off of it. So they'll make more. But yes, Bobby Kotick, I will pay $100 for a Ramatra Jotaro Kujo skin.
And there's so many like JoJo Bizarre Adventure characters that you could easily make.
You can give Sigma the Dio skin because he's not touching.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Dude.
Sigma with long hair might be kind of weird looking. But I guess we have a couple of skins where he has longer hair, like the concert skin and stuff.
There's so much you could do with it.
Yep, all the gears are turning at this point in time.
The most important thing that's in the shop, and I will camp out to buy this, is there's the business pack for Winston. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where it's like Winston
monkey
in like
business.
a suit. The monkey business one where he's wearing like a little fedora and like a business suit. And it's the emo I need to buy is
the phone call.
Is the one where he puts up and he brings up the big phone. That's the best way to stunt on people. You go through, you tickle them all to death, you just pull up, take a phone call really quick. I feel like there's like at least like that's from some donkey video. I don't know if it's from like Overwatch or something where he just has like the monkey just keep taking phone calls on top of people over.
I'm surprised I didn't do it
from
just
Tekken.
as
It's from
banana
Tekken.
phone.
Oh, banana.
It should have been. You know, it was literally right there.
The Raffi collaboration when? Bobby, you're leaving money on the table. Me and the 8 other people who still listen to Raffi, please.
Oh, I have to listen to that song at least twice a week due to the children.
Raffi's the GOAT, Spyder. I literally am alive today because when I was colicky as a baby, the only thing I would sit still and watch was my live concert DVD of Raffi. So, I'm sorry, it was a VHS back in that time. My live concert VHS of Raffi.
Nice.
Singing Banana Phone and Baby Beluga. Yeah, I feel pretty good about the game right now. I have been off for a couple of months. Probably in the time that we've last talked, I think I probably had played like once or twice before that. This is my first time playing all year, and I've been having more fun than I really thought I was going to. So we'll see if they can keep it up. It seems like the general consensus around a lot of places is that like this is the best that the game has felt in a while.
It's definitely getting better for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
I think as a whole, though, like at least, especially with the skins in particular, it really feels like they have leveled up just the amount of detail work that goes into it. Where maybe something that would have been legendary in the past is more like epic in Overwatch 2, which is really nice to see. But yeah, I'm really curious to see like what other collaborations we will get along with One Punch Man. Like for me, like when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But it's like, you kind of have that discussion of like, well, it's not as current as some of the other animes that they could have used. But I'm just glad that they're more open to having this conversation and reaching out to these other studios to to bring in some of their assets and really make it fit the Overwatch style, which is something that, they specified. Like, we really want to make sure that it still fits within the Overwatch universe. And, now that we're here, we'll see just how much weebness is going to be happening, because a lot of people are like looking at like the dating sim and then this, and they're like, oh man, like the weebs are going to just be taking over at this point in time. They're going to be shelling out all the money.
We've
And
been here the whole
that
time,
will
keeping
absolutely
this game
happen. And
afloat.
yes, the Overwatch League is an anime. It's you're just propping it up at this point in time. Now, outside of that, the other thing they mentioned for the limited time events was Patchy Marchy, which returns in the end of March, running through April 4th. So, we got a kill confirm game mode, got a lot of rewards with that. We got an epic skin, player icons, weapon charms, things like that. And of course, you can get an icon just by logging in during the event. So that's another thing. I'm sure Slamba will be thrilled. He's a big Patchy fan at that. And I have to say, too, we haven't really even talked about the skins for Season 3. There were some surprises in there, kind of sprinkled in. I think the one for me in particular that really was like, oh man, I definitely need to get this one, was the Invisible Man Cassidy skin.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
It didn't really fit the theme of the season, but it was one that was just kind of thrown in there, and I was like, oh damn, that's badass. I never would have expected that. But of course, there's always the people that are like, well, how is the hit registry gonna work on the head? Very similar to what we got with the Knight Pharaoh one, when she just doesn't have a head. But I'm not too worried about that. But in regards to the silhouette just of that specific skin, it was very striking.
I think all the skins this time were really good. The Junkrat skin, it's the higher tier Junkrat skin, looks amazing. Obviously, we talked about the Kiriko skin last week, but seeing it in the game, the different forms and colors, I think is even better than the previous ones. When they showed off that Genji skin initially, we were all like, oh my gosh, this skin is amazing. This skin looks great. Now, out of the three, the Genji one is my least favorite, even though I really dig the cyberpunk aesthetic. They just keep getting better at it, and they get better at not only just the theme of the skin, but how different she looks between just switching the different modes on the skin. Whereas Genji's, I felt all felt very similar. It's okay, instead of horizontal lines, he has vertical lines now in his tattoos. So I really liked all the skins. We didn't get the Tsukunomi and the brother and sister skins that I requested last week, but if anything, they may just be saving those to make those mythic skins down the line. But all in all, the battle pass as a whole is much better. From somebody who reviewed the past battle pass in detail, comparing it to this one is it's a different game almost. And other than the snafu of them not knowing the difference between silver and gold, the fact that you get coins and something else on every other level pretty much is great. So the positive direction, a huge jump. We knew it was going to be improved, but this is what the game needed and what I was asking for specifically. So all in all, Season 3, they needed to step up this other stuff because they didn't have a hero, and I feel so far they are delivering.
I think so too. I bought this battle pass, and so now I'm sitting here grinding my 35 wins to get Ramatra, because I'm not paying for that if I can help it. Not the worst not the worst challenge in order to make that happen, but it's gonna take a while.
That was the other thing that they changed, is you can just buy all 4 of the new Overwatch 2 heroes straight up for $20, which some people are like, oh, well, that's too much. And I'm like, well, when you think
For
about it,
20, that's not horrible.
no,
Like, yeah.
previously it was 60 because you had to buy them in a bundle with a bunch of
Mhm.
extra nonsense. So the fact that you can get all of them and Overwatch coins for 20, um, like the premium Overwatch coins for 20, is actually a fairly good deal for anybody who wants to mildly invest in the game. Um, and the the thing I'm curious about with that is, are they going to keep that 20 and just keep throwing heroes in it, or are they going to like start putting out like Overwatch 2 Year 1 pack, Overwatch Year 2 pack, and which would probably be the more likely. But they could go like full consumer friendly and just be like, okay, well, it's $20 and you get all the past heroes. Like, I think that is a good way to incentivize free to play players to spend a little bit of money and feel like they're getting a good return on their investment.
Mhm. I think they'll probably keep it as a bundle at the 4 pack, because that's kind of similar to like what they were doing with like the Mortal Kombat like DLC.
Yep.
So I can imagine that they would just like lump literally everything. But now that we are getting to the every other, that would start to make more sense now that we are starting to see the map getting added, and then we'll have the new hero release instead of
Mhm.
just back to back straight. In this case, in time. But yeah, the snafu with the credit thing. Like, I just kind of like, oh great, Reddit's gonna flip their shit when they see this because it's an obvious snafu. But
Mhm.
at least we're able to get some of the credits via the battle pass, so can go back, get some of the older skins that we're missing. I was doing that earlier, going through and like seeing like, okay, like which skins am I still missing. I basically finished unlocking the other Diva skins that I was missing, so I have all the Diva skins at this point in time, because I was missing I think 2. But yeah, like the Winston emote I laughed at. I already mentioned I grabbed the B skin for Mercy, which comes with the weapon charm, and it's like 1,000 of the premium currency for $10. So you're basically getting, not really even paying for the skin or the weapon charm, because it's just tied together with it at a baseline cost. But value wise, definitely a step in the right direction. And just happy to see them making some very smart pivots, because going into a new season without a new hero release, it's like, okay, like we didn't really know what to expect. Now we have a general idea, so it kind of like sets the tone for like what's gonna happen 2 more seasons down the line. Like, are they gonna do some more outlandish things? Are we gonna get another collaboration at that point in time? Who knows?
I I I don't think this will be the last collab. Like it seems so one note. Like I wanted to say one note, but that I feel like that's too much of a pun. But it seems too random
Mhm.
for this to be the only collab we see. So I'm sure they have a lot of other stuff in the works. Um, but all in all, I don't know. I'm out of things to say. I've said enough tonight.
All right. Well, with that being said, I know it is getting pretty late, and yeah, Spider probably needs to crash. It's like 1 o'clock.
I
At
mean,
that
I
point.
basically had to rebuild my computer from scratch, so I
Wow.
am I am in between that line of, do I start reinstalling the other programs, because I basically installed just the bare necessities to make this stream happen.
Mhm.
So uh, I I got to go get some other stuff installed so that luckily I don't use this computer for work, but it does function for like an auxiliary computer
Mhm.
while I work. So like I need to do important things like listen to Spotify or watch YouTube, stuff like that. So
Mhm.
like I need to get all that stuff set up again. Um, but yeah, I'm debating whether or not to just go to bed and do that tomorrow.
Yeah. So on that note, like we've primarily been doing bi-weekly recordings. Um, we I'm assuming there's not gonna be a ton of talk about next week, but like we will
Mm-mm.
for sure stream Loverwatch
Yeah, I'll
at
definitely
some point.
probably Thursday night. Um,
Mm.
I will maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I will stream Loverwatch
Mhm.
on the main channel, and then I'll just save it as a VOD. We should be able to get through both routes, unless I'm really terrible at dating, which I could be. I mean, I haven't
You've been out of the
actually
loop.
I haven't dated someone in 20 years, so much less, not real people. So
Mm.
it's going to be interesting to date a cyber ninja and a Swiss doctor.
And on that note, of course, if you guys are looking to keep in contact with us here at Here's Never Die, you can find us on social media. You can find us at HD Overwatch over on Twitter. Of course, you can find all of our video content on YouTube at Overwatch League Network. And of course, you can always find us lurking around our Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. And outside of that, you can also reach all of our hosts on social media as well. So, Ramses, where can the listeners reach you there?
If you want to reach me, you can find me on Twitter at Ramses_GG. If they want to reach Spyder, where would they find him at?
That's a good question. Some days I don't even know myself, but if you'd like to get a hold of me on Twitter, it's @_Spyder Gaming.
And you can find me at Tonally Drunk.
Spyder,
And,
when I was driving home a couple of days ago from work, there was a car in front of me that their license plate was spelled the same way as your name,
The
and I was
the other day we were looking for a book for my daughter in Barnes and Noble, and we were browsing like the youth like graphic novel section, and there was literally one called like Gamer Girl, and it was like Snoo versus Spider, and it was like these two girls like on computers like raging at each other, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, let me read
Spyder
this.
is my number one gamer girl.
Yeah, here I am. Our Heroes Never Die dating simulator coming soon.
I mean, it's the obvious next step after 250 episodes, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to make the smart pivots.
But I want to put like all the hosts in there, like even past hosts. So like
Give
you
me
have
the
like
Ednar dating. Give me the Ednar dating
like
line.
you
'cause I need
choose
this.
Edinar, and it's just like walls of text, like outside of the text box, even like just random rants. Like picture like Patton Oswald when he does the rant on like Parks and Rec, like that kind of stuff. I think that would be really funny, but I don't have the time or the energy to program a dating simulator right now. Someday, maybe.
Absolutely. But on that note, that will do it for us here tonight on Heroes Never Die. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 250. Spyder, happy birthday yet again. Hopefully your computer won't decide to implode next time we sit down to either stream and or record.
Hopefully.
But, you know, you got it up and running. You know, that's the important thing.
It's at least walking at this point.
Yeah. We'll see you guys back next week for Loverwatch, and probably the week after for episode 251. You guys take care.